You think that cheap eagle tattoo is going to help you survive here, recruit? The words slice through the pre-dawn darkness at 4:30 a.m. like a combat knife through silk. Sergeant Thaddeus Grimshaw's face hovers inches from Sarah Blackwood's, his breath hot with black coffee and contempt. 40 recruits stand at rigid attention in the harsh glare of Fort Ironclad's floodlights, but Grimshaw has eyes only for the 28-year-old woman whose collar has shifted just enough to reveal black ink against pale skin. The eagle's wing peeks out, like a secret trying to escape. Sarah keeps her gaze fixed straight ahead, her breathing controlled despite the hammering in her chest. Welcome to our channel. If you love stories about unsung heroes and delayed justice, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Today, we'll uncover the secret behind a female recruit's tattoo that silenced an entire training camp. Your support helps us share these powerful stories. The morning routine at Fort Ironclad begins the same way it has for 70 years, with calculated brutality designed to break spirits and rebuild soldiers. But this July morning carries an electric tension that even the other recruits can feel. Grimshaw circles Sarah like a predator who's found wounded prey. His 42 years have hardened him into something more machine than man, and everyone knows his particular hatred for female recruits who dare to mark their bodies with ink. "Drop and give me 500, Blackwood," he barks, spittle flying in the humid Texas air. "And make them proper ones, not those pathetic half-attempts you've been passing off as exercise. The rest of you maggots can watch what happens when someone thinks they're special." Sarah drops without hesitation, her palms hitting the scorched concrete with practiced precision. The first 50 push-ups flow like water, her form textbook perfect, despite the burning in her shoulders. Grimshaw plants his boot next to her head, counting each rep with sadistic pleasure. Around them, the other recruits shift uncomfortably, some stealing glances at the partial tattoo visible each time Sarah's shirt rides up during the exercise. 100, Grimshaw announces with mock surprise. "Look at that, boys and girls. Our tattooed princess actually has some strength. Too bad she'll need more than muscle to survive what's coming." His voice carries across the training ground, ensuring everyone hears the threat beneath his words. Sarah continues without acknowledging him, her breathing steady even as sweat begins to pool beneath her. By 200 push-ups, whispers ripple through the formation despite strict orders for silence. Maverick Stone, a 26-year-old recruit with the bearing of someone who's seen combat before, risks a supportive nod when Sarah's eyes briefly meet his. She doesn't acknowledge it, focusing instead on the rhythm of her movements, up and down, the concrete scraping her palms raw. "Getting tired, Blackwood." Grimshaw crouches beside her, his voice dropping to a whisper meant only for her ears. "That eagle on your chest won't give you wings when you fail. And you will fail, just like every other woman who thought she belonged here." 300 push-ups, and Sarah's arms begin to shake. Not from weakness, but from memories threatening to surface. The number 300 triggers something deep. 300 seconds she held position under enemy fire. 300 meters she dragged wounded bodies through sand and blood. She pushes harder, faster, trying to outrun the ghosts. Grimshaw mistakes her acceleration for desperation and laughs. At 400 push-ups, the morning sun begins to paint the horizon orange and pink. Other training units have begun their morning runs, and the sound of synchronized footfalls creates a military symphony that Sarah knows by heart. Her shirt is soaked through now, clinging to her body and revealing more of the tattoo. Not just an eagle, but an eagle with something beneath its wings. Numbers that Grimshaw can't quite make out from his angle. 450, he counts, his confidence wavering slightly as Sarah shows no signs of stopping. "Well, well, perhaps our princess has some warrior in her after all. Tell me, Blackwood, where did you serve before deciding to play soldier here?" Sarah completes her 500th push-up and springs to her feet in one fluid motion, resuming attention position as if she hadn't just performed a feat that would break most trained soldiers. Her green eyes remain fixed on the middle distance, but there's something in them now. Not defiance, but a deep sadness that Grimshaw doesn't know how to interpret. "Permission to return to formation, Sergeant," she says, her voice steady despite her exertion. Grimshaw steps closer, using his height advantage to loom over her 5'7" frame. His eyes narrow as he studies the portion of tattoo visible above her collar. "Negative, recruit. You'll stand right there while the others run their 5 miles. Maybe the Texas sun will bake some respect into you." The formation breaks for their morning run, leaving Sarah standing alone in the growing heat. Grimshaw assigns 2 junior instructors to watch her, then stalks off to oversee the runners. Neither guard speaks to her, but she catches them exchanging glances. Everyone knows Grimshaw has crossed a line, but no one dares challenge the sergeant who's trained more Special Forces operators than anyone else at Fort Ironclad. 2 hours pass before the runners return, drenched in sweat and gasping in the 100-degree heat. Sarah hasn't moved a muscle, her posture perfect despite the sun that's turned her exposed skin bright red. Several recruits shoot her sympathetic looks, particularly Helena Cross, a 31-year-old woman whose intelligent eyes seem to catalog everything. Sarah doesn't acknowledge any of them, her discipline absolute. The morning progresses through combat drills and weapons training, with Grimshaw finding every opportunity to single Sarah out for additional punishment. But something strange happens. Each challenge he throws at her, she completes with an efficiency that speaks of muscle memory rather than current training. When he demands she disassemble and reassemble an M4 carbine blindfolded, she does it in 43 seconds. When he orders her to navigate an obstacle course in full gear, she beats the course record by 12 seconds. "Where did you train, Blackwood?" Grimshaw demands during lunch, cornering her at the mess hall while others eat. "That's not beginner's luck, that's trained skill." Sarah takes a measured bite of her MRE before responding. "I was a nurse, Sergeant. Combat medicine in Afghanistan." The half-truth rolls off her tongue easily, practiced from months of maintaining this cover. Grimshaw's eyes narrow with suspicion, but before he can press further, an alarm sounds across the base. "Surprise inspection!" someone shouts, and the mess hall erupts into controlled chaos as recruits scramble to prepare. Colonel Cornelius Ashford himself is making rounds, something that happens maybe twice a year. The 58-year-old commander of Fort Ironclad has a reputation for finding the smallest infractions. Careers have ended during his inspections. The recruits stand at perfect attention in their barracks, footlockers open for inspection. Colonel Ashford moves through the rows like a force of nature, his presence commanding absolute focus. His steel-gray hair and weathered face tell stories of battles fought in places most Americans can't pronounce. When he reaches Sarah's bunk, he pauses. "Recruit Blackwood," he reads from his clipboard, then looks up at her with piercing blue eyes. "At ease, soldier." Sarah shifts to parade rest, and the movement causes her collar to gap slightly. Ashford's eyes catch the tattoo, and his entire body goes rigid. The color drains from his face as he steps closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. "That tattoo. May I see it properly, recruit?" "Sir." "Yes, sir," Sarah responds, unbuttoning the top 2 buttons of her uniform to reveal the full design. A black eagle with wings spread, and beneath it, the numbers 7-19 clearly visible. Ashford's hand trembles as he reaches out, stopping just short of touching the ink. "Phantom 7, he breathes, the words barely audible. "July 19th, 2019. But that's impossible. They all died. Every last one of them died in that valley." Grimshaw, who's been hovering nearby, steps forward with confusion written across his face. "Sir, what's Phantom 7? Ashford's eyes haven't left Sarah's tattoo, and when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of unshed tears. Phantom 7 was a classified special operations unit, 12 operators sent on a rescue mission for 47 diplomatic hostages. They succeeded, saved every single hostage, but were ambushed during extraction. We lost communication at 0300 hours. When the recovery team arrived, they found 11 bodies. The barracks has gone completely silent, every recruit straining to hear. Sarah stands perfectly still, but a single tear tracks down her cheek. Ashford finally looks up at her face, studying her features with growing recognition. 11 bodies, but there were 12 operators. The 12th was never found. We assumed taken prisoner or disintegrated in the final explosion. "Sir," Sarah's voice cracks slightly. "Sergeant First Class Sarah Blackwood, Delta 7492. Requesting permission to speak freely, sir." Ashford nods slowly, his eyes wide with disbelief. Sarah takes a deep breath, and when she speaks, her voice carries across the silent barracks. "I was the 12th operator, sir, combat medic attached to Phantom 7. I survived because I was treating wounded when the first RPG hit. Spent 72 hours evading enemy forces while carrying 3 wounded teammates. Only I made it to the extraction point." Her voice breaks completely on the last words. "I couldn't save them, sir. I tried, but I couldn't save them." The silence that follows is deafening. Grimshaw looks like he's been punched in the gut, his face cycling through shame, disbelief, and horror. Several recruits have tears in their eyes. Maverick Stone's hands are clenched into fists, and Helena Cross has pulled out what looks like a phone, but might be something else entirely. Colonel Ashford does something then that no one at Fort Ironclad has ever seen. He snaps to attention and renders a perfect salute to a recruit. "Sergeant Blackwood, I led Phantom 7 for 3 years before my promotion. Those were my boys. My son, Lieutenant Marcus Ashford, was your team leader." Sarah's composure finally breaks completely as she returns the salute. "Marcus died in my arms, sir. His last words were about you, about how proud he was to be your son. I promised him I'd tell you. I'm sorry it took so long." The emotional weight in the room is suffocating. Grimshaw has backed against the wall, his face pale as he processes that he's been torturing a decorated war hero for weeks. Ashford maintains his salute for another heartbeat before dropping it. His voice is thick with emotion when he speaks again. "Sergeant Blackwood, you're ordered to report to my office immediately. Sergeant Grimshaw, you will accompany us. The rest of you are dismissed to afternoon training." As they file out of the barracks, Helena Cross approaches Sarah with an expression that's impossible to read. "That was either very brave or very dangerous, revealing yourself like that," she says quietly, and something in her tone suggests she knows more than she should. Sarah meets her gaze steadily. "Sometimes the truth needs its moment, even if it puts a target on your back." Helena nods slowly, then adds in an even lower voice, "That target might be bigger than you know. Be careful, Sergeant Blackwood. Not everyone wants heroes from Phantom 7 to surface." Before Sarah can respond, Grimshaw roughly gestures for her to follow the colonel. As they walk across the base, she notices how different everything feels. The weight of her secret has been crushing her for 2 years. Now, exposed to the light, she wonders if she's just signed her own death warrant. Colonel Ashford's office reflects the man himself. Spartan, functional, but with carefully placed photographs that reveal his humanity. Sarah's eyes are drawn immediately to one showing a younger Marcus Ashford in dress uniform, the same piercing blue eyes as his father. Ashford notices her looking and manages a sad smile. He would have been 31 this year. "He was the best of us, sir," Sarah says softly. "Natural leader. The men would have followed him into hell itself." "They did," Ashford replies, his voice heavy. "And most of them didn't come back. But you did, Sergeant. The question is why you're here, pretending to be a recruit. You could have had any posting, any assignment. Why Fort Ironclad?" Sarah glances at Grimshaw, who's standing at attention by the door, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. She makes a decision that will change everything. "Because someone betrayed Phantom 7, sir. Someone gave our position to the enemy. I've spent 2 years trying to find out who, and the trail led here." She pulls out a small notebook from her pocket. 3 weeks before the mission, classified intelligence about our operation was accessed from a terminal at Fort Ironclad. I came here to find the traitor. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. Ashford's face hardens into something dangerous, while Grimshaw makes a strangled sound. "Sir," Grimshaw starts, his voice shaking. "Sir, I need to confess something." Both Ashford and Sarah turn to look at him. Grimshaw's face has gone gray, and he's trembling. 3 weeks before the Phantom 7 mission, I was approached by someone claiming to be military intelligence. They said they needed to verify operational security for a classified mission. I gave them access to a secure terminal. I thought I was helping. The confession hangs in the air like a poison cloud. Sarah's hand instinctively moves toward where her sidearm would be, but of course, recruits don't carry weapons. The silence following Grimshaw's confession stretches like a taut wire ready to snap. Sarah's body coils with barely contained rage, her training screaming at her to neutralize the threat. But something in Grimshaw's eyes, not just guilt, but genuine anguish, makes her pause. Colonel Ashford rises from his chair with deliberate slowness, each movement controlled despite the fury radiating from him. "You gave them access," Ashford says, his voice deadly quiet, "to verify operational security. And you never thought to verify their credentials first?" Grimshaw's legs buckle, and he drops to his knees. "Sir, I've lived with this guilt every day since the news broke about Phantom 7. I didn't connect it until now, until I heard Sergeant Blackwood's story. The timing, the access point. It was me. I killed those men." Sarah moves before anyone can react, crossing the room in 3 swift strides. Both men tense, expecting violence, but instead, she places her hand on Grimshaw's shoulder. "Look at me, Sergeant," she commands, and when he raises his tear-stained face, she continues, "You were manipulated by professionals. The real traitors are the ones who used you, and they're still out there. Do you think Grimshaw is truly innocent? Leave a comment about the detail you find most suspicious. Don't forget to like if this story touches your heart." Ashford activates his desk phone, his fingers dancing across the secure line. "This is Colonel Ashford. Authorization Tango 77. I need a full security sweep of Fort Ironclad immediately. Possible surveillance devices. Check everything." He pauses, listening, then adds, "And contact FBI Special Agent Helena Cross. Tell her the Phoenix has surfaced." Sarah's head snaps up at the mention of Helena's name. She's FBI? She's been in my barracks for 3 weeks. Protection detail, Ashford confirms. We've suspected someone would come for you eventually. Helena volunteered to go undercover when we got word of unusual chatter about Phantom 7 survivors. What we didn't expect was for you to reveal yourself so publicly. A knock at the door interrupts them, and Helena Cross enters without waiting for permission. Gone is the uncertain recruit facade, replaced by a sharp-eyed federal agent with a Glock visible beneath her jacket. "Colonel, we have a problem," she announces. "My surveillance equipment just detected 3 unauthorized transmissions from this building. Someone's been listening, and they just sent out a location confirmation. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Sarah's cover is blown, and her location has been transmitted to unknown parties." Ashford immediately initiates lockdown procedures, while Helena coordinates with her team via encrypted phone. Grimshaw, still kneeling, looks up at Sarah with desperate eyes. "Let me help. Please, I need to make this right." Sarah studies him for a long moment, then extends her hand to help him up. "We'll need every trained soldier we can get. How many veterans are currently at Fort Ironclad?" Ashford pulls up personnel files on his computer. Between instructors and advanced training units, about 300 combat veterans. But we can't be sure who to trust. The enemy had inside information before. "I can vouch for 12 recruits in our unit," Helena interjects. "I've been vetting them for weeks. Maverick Stone is former Marine Force Recon, did 2 tours in Syria. 3 others have combat experience they haven't disclosed." Sarah moves to the window, scanning the base with tactical precision. "They'll come at night. Standard infiltration tactics would put them here between 0200 and 0400 hours. We have maybe 8 hours to prepare." "How can you be sure?" Grimshaw asks, his voice steadier now that he has a mission. Sarah turns from the window, and for the first time since arriving at Fort Ironclad, she allows her true self to surface. The special operator who survived impossible odds. Because that's when I would come. When the base is at minimum alertness, when most personnel are in deepest sleep cycle. Plus, she adds grimly, it's when Phantom 7 was hit. These people like their symbolism. Ashford nods, already formulating defense plans. "I'll alert base security, but carefully. We don't know how deep this conspiracy goes. Helena, can your team provide overwatch?" 6 agents are en route, Helena confirms. ETA 90 minutes. "But Colonel, there's something else." She pauses, choosing her words carefully. "The chatter we intercepted mentioned a $50 million bounty. Someone wants Sergeant Blackwood very badly, dead or alive." The afternoon transforms Fort Ironclad from a training facility into a fortress preparing for siege. Sarah works with Grimshaw to identify defensive positions while Helena coordinates with arriving FBI agents. The regular recruits are told it's a surprise readiness drill. Only the select few Helena has vetted know the truth. Maverick Stone approaches Sarah as she's checking sightlines from the barracks roof. "Sergeant Blackwood, I want you to know something. My younger brother was one of those 47 hostages Phantom 7 saved. His name was Timothy Stone, diplomatic attaché. You gave me my brother back." Sarah pauses in her work, the weight of connection hitting her. "Timothy Stone. I remember him. Brave kid, helped keep the other hostages calm during the extraction. He named his daughter after the medic who carried him to safety when he got hit by shrapnel." Maverick continues, "Her name is Sarah. We just never knew it was you." The moment is interrupted by Grimshaw's voice over the radio. "Movement detected on the north perimeter. Could be nothing, but... Wait, that's not right. Thermals show someone's been probing our defenses." Sarah and Maverick rush to the command post Ashford has established in the main administrative building, Banks of monitors show feeds from security cameras across the base. Helena points to one screen showing a heat signature disappearing into the tree line. That's the third probe in the last hour. They're mapping our patrols. They'll have studied the base layout, Sarah analyzes. Standard entry points are too obvious. They'll come from somewhere unexpected. Her eyes scan the monitors, then stop. The old drainage tunnels under the East Quarter. They were sealed years ago, but if someone had inside knowledge... Ashford immediately dispatches a team to check the tunnels while Sarah continues planning. We need to make them think we're vulnerable somewhere specific. Channel them into a kill zone. Colonel, what if we stage a medical emergency? Move me to the base hospital under guard. Make it look like I'm injured. That's insane, Grimshaw protests. You'd be exposed. Exactly, Sarah replies with a cold smile. And when they concentrate their attack on the hospital, we'll be waiting. Helena, can your team position snipers on the surrounding buildings? Night falls over Fort Ironclad with an oppressive weight. The regular personnel have been confined to quarters under the guise of the emergency drill, leaving only the defenders moving through the shadows. Sarah, wearing a bulletproof vest under her uniform, takes position in the hospital with Grimshaw and 6 volunteers. Helena's FBI team holds overwatch positions while Ashford commands from the tactical center. At 0130, Maverick Stone's voice crackles over the radio. Thermal signatures approaching from 3 directions. Count 15, maybe 20 hostiles. They're using some kind of masking technology. Hard to get exact numbers. Sarah checks her weapon, an M4 carbine Ashford authorized her to carry. Beside her, Grimshaw grips his rifle with white knuckles. Remember, Sarah tells the defenders, these aren't random mercenaries. They're trained killers. Stay in cover. Watch your sectors. Don't try to be heroes. Bit late for that advice, Grimshaw mutters, earning a grim smile from Sarah. The first sign of attack comes not with gunfire, but with the lights cutting out. Emergency power kicks in a second later, bathing everything in red. Sarah's earpiece fills with reports. Communications are being jammed. Someone's using military-grade equipment. They're in the tunnels, Helena reports. My team has visual on at least 8 coming through, more approaching from the motor pool. Sarah keys her radio. All units, they're splitting forces. Hospital is still primary target. Hold your positions and wait for my signal. The attack begins at exactly 0200 hours, just as Sarah predicted. Flashbang grenades shatter windows as black-clad figures rappel from the roof. Sarah drops 2 with controlled bursts before they clear their harnesses. Beside her, Grimshaw engages targets with surprising efficiency. Contact left. Maverick's voice cuts through the chaos. 5 hostiles moving through the emergency room. They're heading for the stairs. Sarah moves with liquid grace, her muscle memory taking over. She flows from cover to cover, each shot deliberate and lethal. These aren't the terrified reactions of a nurse or recruit. This is Phantom 7's lone survivor in her element. She reaches the stairwell just as the first attacker appears. Her knife finds his throat before he can raise his weapon. The battle intensifies as more attackers pour in. Sarah realizes with cold certainty that this isn't just an assassination attempt. It's an extermination squad. They're not trying to capture her. They want her dead. Sarah, behind you! Grimshaw's shout comes barely in time. Sarah spins, but the attacker is already too close. Then Grimshaw is there, tackling the man, both of them crashing through a window. Sarah hears the sickening crack of impact 2 stories below. Coming up is the most intense scene. When enemies infiltrate the camp, how will Sarah fight with 3 old wounds? Keep watching to witness the moment 2,000 people kneel. Grimshaw! Sarah starts toward the window, but 3 more attackers force her back into cover. Rage floods through her, cold and focused. These men killed her team. Now they've taken Grimshaw. The survivor becomes the hunter. What happens next will become legend at Fort Ironclad. Sarah Blackwood stops defending and starts attacking. She moves through the hospital like death itself, using every trick learned in years of special operations. Improvised explosives from medical supplies, oxygen tanks become weapons, surgical tools find new purposes. Maverick Stone, watching from his sniper position, later describes it as watching a master at work. She didn't just fight them. She dissected their attack, predicted their movements, turned their aggression against them. I've never seen anything like it. By the time FBI reinforcements arrive, 11 attackers are down. 4 more are captured trying to escape. Sarah stands in the devastated hospital lobby, blood seeping from a reopened wound on her shoulder. She doesn't notice Helena approaching until the agent places a gentle hand on her arm. "It's over, Sarah. We got them." Sarah shakes her head, her eyes distant. "It's never over. There will always be another threat, another mission." She pauses, then asks quietly, "Grimshaw?" "Alive," Helena reports. "Broken spine, but the medical team thinks he'll survive. Might not walk again, but he's alive." Sarah closes her eyes, allowing herself one moment of relief before the weight of command returns. The other defenders? 3 wounded, none critical. Your planning saved lives tonight. These weren't random mercenaries, by the way. Helena holds up a captured identification. Former Spetsnaz, Russian Special Forces. Someone paid serious money for this hit. Dawn breaks over Fort Ironclad to find the base transformed. FBI agents process crime scenes while Army investigators begin their inquiry. Sarah sits beside Grimshaw's hospital bed, watching the sergeant struggle back to consciousness. His eyes flutter open, focusing on her with difficulty. "Did we win?" he croaks. Sarah squeezes his hand gently. "We survived. In our line of work, that counts as winning." "I'm sorry," Grimshaw whispers, "for everything, for how I treated you, for Phantom 7, for—" "Stop!" Sarah interrupts firmly. "You fought beside me when it mattered. That's all I need to know." Colonel Ashford enters, his uniform pristine despite the sleepless night. "Sergeant Blackwood, Sergeant Grimshaw, there's something you both need to see." He wheels Grimshaw's bed to the window overlooking the parade ground. Below, the entire population of Fort Ironclad has assembled. 2,000 soldiers in perfect formation. As they watch, Ashford speaks into his radio. "All units, attention to orders." His voice echoes across the base through loudspeakers. "Last night, Fort Ironclad was attacked by foreign operatives seeking to assassinate an American hero. That hero is Sergeant First Class Sarah Blackwood, sole survivor of Phantom 7, Silver Star recipient, and defender of this installation." What happens next is unprecedented in military protocol. Without any command being given, 2,000 soldiers drop to one knee in perfect unison. The sound of their movement is like thunder. Sarah's hand flies to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "That's not regulation," she whispers. "Sometimes," Ashford replies quietly, "honor transcends regulation." The kneeling continues for exactly 60 seconds. 1 second for each of the 47 hostages Phantom 7 saved, and 13 more for the fallen operators and Grimshaw's sacrifice. Then they rise as one, and the senior NCO's voice carries across the morning air. "Sergeant Blackwood, by unanimous accord of the warriors of Fort Ironclad, we recognize you not as recruit, but as instructor. not as student, but as teacher. Will you accept this honor?" Sarah looks at Grimshaw, who nods despite his pain, then at Ashford, whose eyes shine with paternal pride. She steps onto the balcony, her voice carrying strong and clear. "I accept, but on one condition. We rebuild Phantom 7, not as a memory, but as a living unit. We take the best of Fort Ironclad and forge them into something new. We call it Phoenix 7, rising from the ashes." The roar of approval from 2,000 throats shakes the windows. Maverick Stone steps forward from the formation, snapping a perfect salute. "Sergeant Blackwood, I volunteer for Phoenix 7. One by one, others step forward. Helena Cross, having resigned from the FBI effective immediately, 12 recruits who proved themselves during the night's battle, even some of the grizzled instructors who haven't seen combat in years but recognize a worthy cause. 3 months later, Phoenix 7 conducts its first operation, rescuing 23 aid workers from insurgents in Somalia. The mission is flawless, 0 casualties on either side. Sarah leads from the front, wearing her eagle tattoo with pride now. Grimshaw, wheelchair-bound but unbroken, serves as tactical coordinator from Fort Ironclad's new operations center. The conspiracy that targeted Phantom 7 is slowly unraveled by joint FBI military intelligence investigation. Arrests reach into surprising corners of the defense establishment. The $50 million bounty is traced to a Russian oligarch whose arms-dealing empire was crippled when Phantom 7 rescued those diplomats. He had been negotiating a massive weapons sale using them as leverage. On the first anniversary of the night attack, Fort Ironclad holds a ceremony. Sarah stands before the memorial they've erected for Phantom 7, running her fingers across the names of her fallen teammates. Marcus Ashford's name is at the top. His father stands beside her, both of them in dress uniforms. "They would be proud," Ashford says softly. Sarah nods, touching her eagle tattoo through her uniform. "They never left, sir. Every mission Phoenix 7 completes, Phantom 7 is there. Every life we save, they save." As the sun sets over Fort Ironclad, Sarah watches Phoenix 7's newest recruits training on the obstacle course. Grimshaw barks instructions from his wheelchair, as harsh as ever but tempered now with purpose. The cheap eagle tattoo that started everything has become the unit's emblem, worn with honor by warriors who understand that sometimes the greatest strength comes from surviving when the world expects you to fall. "You know," Grimshaw calls out to Sarah as she passes, "I never did apologize properly for that first morning." Sarah pauses, a slight smile playing at her lips. "You gave me 500 push-ups to do, Sergeant. I'd say we're even." "Even?" Grimshaw laughs, a sound that would have seemed impossible months ago. "Blackwood, I watched you take down 11 Special Forces operatives with medical supplies and an oxygen tank. We'll never be even. I'll spend whatever time I have left making sure Phoenix 7 has everything it needs." The base chaplain approaches, carrying a package. "Sergeant Blackwood, this came through diplomatic channels. It's from Timothy Stone, Maverick's brother." Sarah opens the package to find a photograph. Timothy with his wife and daughter, little Sarah, now 3 years old. On the back, a simple message. She wants to be just like her namesake when she grows up. Thank you for giving her that chance. As night falls over Fort Ironclad, Sarah stands watch from the command center, her eagle tattoo partially visible beneath her collar. The base is quiet, secure, but she remains vigilant. Somewhere out there, new threats are forming. New missions are waiting. But tonight, Fort Ironclad is safe. Tonight, Phoenix 7 stands ready. The story of the recruit who was mocked for her tattoo has become legend throughout the military. Not as a tale of revenge, but as proof that true warriors recognize each other not by their uniforms or ranks, but by their sacrifice. The eagle that Grimshaw once called cheap has become the most respected symbol at Fort Ironclad, a reminder that heroes sometimes hide in plain sight, waiting for their moment to soar. Sarah touches the intercom button, addressing the night watch. Phoenix 7. This is Phoenix Actual. All quiet on the perimeter. Maintain vigilance. Remember, we are never alone. We carry the fallen with us always. The responses come back strong and clear from positions across the base. Men and women who chose to follow a leader not because of her rank, but because of her resolve. The mocking has long since faded, replaced by something far more powerful. Respect forged in fire, loyalty earned in blood, and the unbreakable bond of warriors who have seen the worst humanity can offer and chosen to stand against it anyway. Tomorrow, Phoenix 7 will ship out for another mission, another chance to honor the fallen by saving the living. But tonight, Sarah Blackwood stands watch over Fort Ironclad. Her eagle tattoo a testament to the truth that every soldier learns eventually. The greatest victories often come disguised as the deepest defeats, and sometimes it takes being mocked and broken to discover just how strong you really are. 6 years pass, like flowing water through clenched fists. Phoenix 7 becomes the most decorated special operations unit in modern military history. 37 successful missions, 0 operational failures. Each victory carries the weight of Phantom 7's sacrifice. Sarah, now Major Blackwood, still wears her eagle tattoo proudly. Though her uniform covers it, everyone knows it's there. The mark of resurrection. The symbol of second chances. On a humid Thursday evening, she receives an encrypted message that stops her cold. Intelligence has located the mastermind behind Phantom 7's betrayal. Not the oligarch who paid for it, but the American traitor who sold out his own. Richard Brennan, former CIA deputy director, now hiding in a compound in Montenegro. The man who used Grimshaw as an unwitting pawn, who signed 12 death warrants with a keystroke. "We can't touch him officially," Helena Cross explains during the secure video call. "He's got asylum, diplomatic immunity. The government wants this to disappear." Sarah looks at Grimshaw, who now serves as Phoenix 7's intelligence coordinator. His wheelchair hasn't slowed his mind, and his tactical genius has saved countless lives. "What do you think, Thaddeus?" Grimshaw's jaw tightens at the use of his first name, a sign of the deep bond forged through shared trauma. "I think some missions aren't about orders, Major. Some are about balance, the universe demanding payment for sins." 3 weeks later, Richard Brennan disappears from his compound. No bodies, no evidence, just an empty mansion and a single eagle feather on his desk. The message is clear to those who understand. Phantom 7 has finally been avenged. Sarah never confirms or denies involvement. But that night, she and Grimshaw share a bottle of Marcus Ashford's favorite whiskey in silence. Colonel Ashford retires the following month, passing command of Fort Ironclad to Sarah. His last official act is commissioning a statue, not of warriors in combat, but of a medic carrying wounded comrades. The inscription reads simply, "Strength is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Standing before 2,000 soldiers at her change of command ceremony, Sarah's fingers unconsciously trace her tattoo through her uniform. "Every one of you," she declares, her voice carrying across the parade ground, "carries your own eagles, your own marks of survival. Wear them proudly." The formation holds for a breathless moment, then erupts in thunderous approval. Among them stands Maverick Stone, now commanding his own unit, his brother Timothy beside him, with young Sarah on his shoulders. The child waves a small flag with Phoenix Seven's emblem. The same eagle that once brought mockery now inspires generations. Grimshaw wheels himself forward, presenting Sarah with the commanding officer's saber. From a sergeant who learned too late, he says loud enough for all to hear, that true strength isn't in breaking others down, but in lifting them up. Major Blackwood taught me that. She taught all of us that. As the ceremony concludes and the sun sets behind Fort Ironclad's buildings, Sarah touches her tattoo one final time. Somewhere beyond, she knows Marcus Ashford and the rest of Phantom 7 are watching. They didn't die for nothing. They died so she could live, so she could build something from their ashes. The eagle soars eternal, marked in ink and memory, in sacrifice and triumph, forever rising,